Season 5 brought a new addition to the antagonist roster in the name of Starlight Glimmer, a fascist cult leader who operated a faux equality-based town based on whatever young adult dystopia novel was the first result you googled after seeing the initial promo. To say that Starlight Glimmer was able to compete with the likes of Lord Tyrek and Adagio Dazzle would be grossly inaccurate. Starlight Glimmer suffered the minute she was announced, because her cult-like setup and minor connection to a topical present-day issue meant that everyone immediately started projecting onto her. She was compared to communism, Nazis, progressives, etc. The joke I made in my top 10 video about whatever it is you think is a thing currently ruining society wasn't just a joke. People were actively doing this between forum posts, Equestria Daily comments, and even actual reviews. This might sound like a small issue, but the community around a series can affect its intended quality. Hype backlash is a very real thing, and nothing kills enthusiasm faster than seeing people jump at something to declare that it's actually an allegory for their pet cause. So instantly we go into Starlight's debut with the irritation of having to sit through 2 months of every knobhead with a microphone declare how Starlight's town was some sort of communist liberal autocracy, even though those 3 words don't actually fit together. When we got there, what had actually happened was that the town was a cult centered around an interpretation of equality that I can only assume Starlight had gleaned from internet message boards, stripping everybody of their talents and abilities in the name of making everybody equal. Now, assuming you grew up in a part of North America that isn't collapsing, you should know that equality is about equal rights, not equal abilities. Even communist governments aren't going to squander unique and gifted individuals. Those people are highly valuable assets in any government. Equality is about equal status, not allowing members of one race, gender, or orientation to lord over the others to make them into second-class citizens. Starlight's philosophy is simple but grossly flawed. When people are differently abled, it leads to differences of opinions. This leads to arguing, which in turn leads to lost friendships. This philosophy only holds water if you're a child or possess the necessary brain damage to be the equivalent of one. We've all had fights and arguments with friends, and we don't declare the friendship to be ruined as a result of that. Even children don't do that. This is what showcases Starlight to be incredibly infantile, not even threatening in any way, just annoying. We all know that Twilight and company are going to come out the victors. There's no tension there. We know it's going to happen, and this is why villains have to be able to hold the entertainment of the audience, and why good voice acting, charisma, and intellect are such important facets of a villain. Starlight's philosophy isn't going to hold up because no writer is going to let the villain win, and when she inevitably loses, her philosophy is going to be thrown right down the drain with her. King Sombra, with no dialogue and very little screen time, was more intimidating than Starlight Glimmer will ever be. Speaking of which, the decision for her return in the cutie remark to showcase alternate futures where every cosmic horror in Equestria was able to stomp around unopposed was great for the episode, but it was terrible for Starlight. We get to see Equestria fighting a stalemate war with the Crystal Empire. We get to see Equestrians living tribal in the Everfree Forest in fear of the changelings. We get to see Equestria in the thrall of Nightmare Moon. Holy crap, Luna, when did you get so scary? I actually wish you hadn't been reformed. Nightmare Moon as a regular antagonist would be awesome. You see these alternate interpretations of Equestria that show just how threatening each and every villain is, and believe me, it's as good as everyone says it is. You want to know one way to make a good villain even better? Show them winning. Show just how powerful and threatening they are, and that's exactly what we get, and all of these things are so goddamn cool! So I can hear you asking, what's the problem, Lily? The problem is that we keep cutting back to this! To Starlight and her pathetic revenge plot. Already not very interesting on its own, but now that the episode has imagined better versions of itself for you, this is what I mean when I say that Starlight is boring. Much like how Sunset Shimmer just wasn't an interesting villain, her plan is too mundane. Her philosophy is not grounded in any logical sense, and her voice acting doesn't go far enough. Even evil Twilight knew the value of hamming it up. The only entertaining thing that Starlight Glimmer ever does was when she— Quiet! After the premiere, I made a lot of jokes about how Starlight only wanted to remove all cutie marks because she didn't like other people being better than her. And then the finale came around, and I found out that I was totally right. Starlight's entire motivation for purging the world of cutie marks was because a friend got his cutie mark and was sent to Celestia's school for gifted unicorns, and their friendship ended. And somehow, Starlight made it to adulthood still bitter and angry about it. Jesus Christ, lady. Grow up. Really, get over yourself. Nothing about this backstory gives me any sympathy for Starlight. It makes me hate her even more. Some people have compared this to Moon Dancer of Amending Fences, and because that episode was one of the best of the season, they seem to conclude that this must be sympathetic in turn, but it isn't. The shining star of Amending Fences was Twilight. Twilight makes amends for how bad of a friend she was to everyone in her circle of friends. Make no mistake, the star of the episode was not Moon Dancer. Moon Dancer, much like Starlight, let one lost friend affect her life so dramatically that she became a reclusive shut-in. That isn't sympathetic, that's just regular pathetic. Once again, the shining star is Twilight. As much as I would personally love it if Twilight had splattered Glimmer's brains over the nearest wall, the fact that Twilight managed to find it in her to forgive Starlight and let her off without any criminal charges whatsoever is fucking saintly. Jesus Christ himself isn't this forgiving. I find it admirable, but I also find it unbearably naive. And that is the only reason Starlight was able to stand toe-to-toe with Twilight at all. Plot armor. Because blasting her out of the air to hit the ground at terminal velocity is just too much for a children's show. And this is where the willing suspension of disbelief is gone. Twilight went toe-to-toe with Tirek and fought to an actual standstill. And even when it came to a draw, she was still raring to go. Tirek knew he couldn't beat her, and that's why he had to blackmail her. And Tirek had to absorb the magic of every creature in Equestria to fight the combined magic of 4 alicorns. And now one of them can't zap a single unicorn? As a trope, I have always hated plot armor. It renders any and all character accomplishments insignificant when the opponent is simply immune to everything until you find the MacGuffin, or talk it out, or placate the enemy. I don't like the elements of harmony being the end-all and be-all. I don't like the rainbow power being the same. I praised it before and I'm gonna do it again. I really liked how the solution to defeating the Dazzlings was reinforcements. I liked it because it was so practical. The Dazzlings were powerful, and the Rainbooms were slightly less powerful, so they doubled up with their other friend, and it showcased the magic of friendship is strong, but it's not inexhaustible. As far as reformations go, I think that Keep Calm and Flutter On handled it the best. Why? It was tentative. They were still wary about him. He was treading on thin ice from the word go, and even with his relapse in Twilight's Kingdom, he's still treading on thin ice. Sunset Shimmer was given the same treatment. This is good character stuff here. The only thing I could think of possibly being interesting about Starlight's reformation is the town. It's still there. Could you imagine her going back and having to make amends to the townspeople there? You could have some really interesting Discord-style tension. That's something I would be really looking forward to if—
when you find it, it's the key. Friends can change the world, you see.
Well, apparently never mind. What the hell do I know? So with all that, my final rating for Starlight Glimmer is 1 piece of desert wood out of 10. She is without a doubt one of the most tediously boring villains in the whole goddamn series. Every other villain clearly overshadows her. Not just in their own original appearances, but even in the examples that Starlight's own finale clearly gave you. All of the examples that the Cutie Remark presented as antagonists are a lot more interesting, be they short-term or long-term, than anything having had to do with Starlight Glimmer. The only thing that Starlight Glimmer made me realize is how much I wish Nightmare Moon would come back. My name is Lily. Thanks for watching.